On the night of Lunar New Year's Eve, my entire family secretly left for a trip without me. I was left staring at a table full of dishes, not knowing what to do. My bedridden mother-in-law cursed at me, demanding that I clean her bedpan and take care of her. The two pet dogs brought by my son and daughter-in-law got into a fight with the purebred cat brought by my daughter and son-in-law. I nervously called them and asked when they would return. My husband, sounding impatient, said, "We've worked hard all year. What's wrong with taking 2 days to relax? Meanwhile, you do nothing all day. Stop calling us. It's annoying." The phone call ended with a beep. I clumsily opened a video app, only to see my husband holding an older woman, dancing intimately with her on the beach. At that moment, I felt utterly exhausted, holding the savings I had accumulated over the years. I left decisively. With the start of a new year, I decided it was time to live for myself. Chapter 01. This year, the kids came back early for Lunar New Year. My son and daughter-in-law brought 2 energetic dogs, insisting I walk them twice a day. "Mom, don't forget to make bone broth for them. Eating just dog food isn't nutritious. Oh, and no salt, it's bad for my boy." My daughter and son-in-law brought a litter of cats. "Mom, these are rag dolls, very expensive and rare. They're just kittens, so you need to take good care of them. I understand that they don't want kids and keep pets instead for companionship. They work hard and deserve to relax when they come home." I busied myself in the kitchen, cutting fruit for the kids and making tea for my husband. Finally, when it was time to eat, I sat down, but my husband wasn't pleased. "Why are you sitting? Did you bring food to my mom yet? Or are you just here to eat by yourself?" My husband, a retired university professor, only has to frown, and my heart starts to race nervously. Before I could answer, my son jumped in. "Dad, Mom already prepared a bowl of plain noodles for Grandma. She even asked me to bring it to her earlier." My daughter-in-law frowned. "Mom, that's cruel. Even if Grandma's bedridden, she's still your mother-in-law." I felt uncomfortable. Grandma has been bedridden for over 10 years, and I've been the one taking care of her all along. If I were truly cruel to her, she wouldn't still be alive. Right then, Grandma started yelling from her room. "Where's my food? Are you trying to starve me to death?" Chapter 02. My husband's face darkened instantly. He slammed the table and shouted, "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear Mom asking for her food?" I rubbed my hands nervously and asked my son, "Didn't you already bring Grandma her noodles?" My son nodded confidently. "It's Lunar New Year. Can't Grandma have something better to eat? Mom, bring her some of the braised pork." "Grandma can't eat braised pork." Before I could finish, my daughter-in-law pouted. "Mom, I didn't realize you're so stingy. It's just a plate of braised pork. It's not like it costs a fortune." My daughter-in-law just joined the family this year and doesn't fully understand the situation. But my husband was furious. "Amelia, are you deaf? Do you really want to starve my mom on Lunar New Year?" My daughter quickly stepped in to mediate. "Stop arguing, everyone. Mom didn't mean to upset anyone. It's New Year's, let's not get angry. I'll take the food to Grandma." I felt a little comforted. They say daughters are the warmest to their mothers, and mine truly is. Finally, I had a chance to explain. I wasn't trying to neglect Grandma. She's been constipated recently and can't eat greasy food. Chapter 03. But earlier, I was busy cooking, and the noodles I asked my son to deliver had gone soggy. Grandma, with her stubborn temper, wouldn't eat such noodles. Helpless, I had to cook a fresh batch. When I brought the noodles to Grandma's bedside and fed her a spoonful, she spat it all over my face. Spit and soggy noodles clung to my skin, and a foul stench filled the air. "You stupid woman, are you trying to burn me to death? You're as dumb as your husband, both of you have pig brains." Grandma cursed loudly. My father-in-law had jumped into the river years ago, unable to endure her verbal abuse. When I first married into this family, I wasn't spared her torment. In the freezing winter, she made me wash clothes at the well. In the summer, I had to stay up all night swatting mosquitoes for her. Even when I was pregnant, I had to get up early to cook breakfast for the whole family. If anything wasn't perfect, she'd point at my forehead and scold me. Who would have thought that even after being bedridden, she still had the energy to yell? Hearing the commotion, My son came running. Grandma immediately put on a pitiful face and cried, "My dear grandson, save Grandma! Your evil mother is trying to kill me." My son, filled with concern, said, "Don't worry, Grandma, I'm here." "Mom, what are you doing? Grandma's in this condition, and you can't even treat her better? Whatever happened in the past is over. Why are you still holding a grudge?" Chapter 04. My husband snorted coldly. His face darkened. "Now you see what kind of person your mother is? If it weren't for you kids, I would have divorced her long ago." My husband was the first university graduate from our village. While I barely attended a few days of elementary school, I can't even read many characters. Marrying him was indeed reaching above my station. But back then, when he was in college, it was my endless hard work at the textile factory that paid for his tuition. I bit my lip and couldn't hold back. "Oliver, don't you know what kind of person I am? How many years have I taken care of you and your bedridden mother? Even if I haven't done anything extraordinary, haven't I worked hard? And you dare to mention my mom? If it weren't for you pissing her off, would she have ended up paralyzed?" My husband ground his teeth in anger, but the truth was, my mother-in-law had paralyzed herself by throwing a tantrum over something trivial. She got so angry because I forgot to add sugar to her rice. I wanted to argue further, but the big dogs my son and daughter-in-law brought charged into the room, knocking over the bedside table. The plain noodles spilled all over the floor. The dogs barked loudly and ran off. My daughter-in-law was heartbroken. "Mom, did you not feed my baby dog food? Not only do you abuse the elderly, but you're also abusing animals." My son quickly comforted her. "Honey, let's not argue with her. You don't understand, my mom's always been like this. Who could stand her?" My heart sank halfway. My own son resented me so much, and right on cue, my mother-in-law started yelling for food again. "You wicked woman, hurry up and bring me my food. I don't want plain noodles, I want sticky rice and pigeon soup." For the first time, I stiffened my spine, shoved the bowl into my husband's hands, and said firmly, "She's your mother, you take care of her." Chapter 05. My husband smashed the bowl onto the floor and pointed at me, yelling, "You think we can't live without you? Let me tell you, if you don't feed my mom today, you can pack your things and get out of this house." My daughter stepped in to persuade me. "Mom, what's the point of this? Can't we just have a happy new year together? It's just feeding her, it won't take long. So why not just do it?" I didn't want to feed her, but I also didn't want to embarrass everyone. My son-in-law came from an educated and well-mannered family, and I didn't want him to think we were uncivilized. My daughter tried to comfort me. "Mom, I know you've worked so hard. If you don't want to do it, I'll feed her instead." There was no way I'd let my daughter go through such misery, but her words still warmed my heart. At least my daughter cared for and loved me. I sat by the window, spoon-feeding my mother-in-law the sticky rice and pigeon soup she demanded. If I wasn't careful, she'd start yelling again, "Why are your hands shaking? You can't even hold a spoon properly." If I could still stand, I'd slap you across the face. Suppressing my anger, I said, "Are you eating or not? If you're not, I'll just feed it to the dog." Finally, she was quiet for 2 minutes. When I was done taking care of her and sat down to eat, most of the dishes on the table were already gone. No one remembered to save me any food, so I had to settle for half a bowl of cold chicken soup. Cold chicken soup doesn't taste good at all, it's greasy and unpleasant. Before I could finish, my son came over to hurry me. "Mom, once you're done eating, clean up the table, we're about to play mahjong." I quickly swallowed the last 2 sips of soup and took the dishes into the kitchen. As I washed the dishes, the sounds of laughter and chatter came from the living room. It was the same as always, I was the one doing all the housework, and I never thought much about it. But with the new year approaching, a heavy feeling started to creep into my heart. The chilblains on my hands were red and itchy, but it seemed like no one noticed. Chapter 06. After cleaning up the kitchen and feeding all the kids' pets one by one, it was already late at night. I lay alone in a small, cramped room, unable to fall asleep. My husband hadn't shared a bed with me for a long time. He looked down on me for being uneducated and for having a broad frame, saying I didn't have the slightest feminine charm. The next day was Lunar New Year's Eve. the day to put up couplets. I got up early to prepare breakfast. As I was about to call my daughter, I heard voices coming from her room. My son-in-law was speaking anxiously. When are you going to talk to your mom? We're almost out of time to pay off that 300,000 yuan loan. My daughter replied in a fawning tone, I know. I'm trying to ease into it. If I just ask her directly, do you think she'll agree? Why have you been acting so nice lately? Are you sure she even has money? She must be hiding some. Someone like her would definitely have secret savings. There's no way she doesn't. I didn't say anything, but my feelings grew complicated. She wasn't wrong, I did have some secret savings, but that money was meant for emergencies and my retirement. What I didn't want to admit was that my daughter's kindness toward me was all for money. After breakfast, my daughter even went out of her way to help me wash the dishes. Sure enough, she brought up the topic of borrowing money. Mom, we need some money to keep our business running. You wouldn't just stand by and watch us struggle, would you? Looking at my daughter's pitiful face, I stayed silent for a moment before finally nodding. There's some money in the bank book. I'll give it to you after the new year. My daughter lit up with joy. How much? Is it 300,000 yuan? Of course. It wasn't that much, I said. It's only 50,000. Her disappointment was obvious. Forget it. Even a mosquito's leg is still meat. Chapter 07. After lunch, the whole family said they were going to the mall, leaving me at home to tidy up. But by evening, they still hadn't come back. I had almost finished preparing dinner, and the Spring Festival Gala was already starting on TV. Worried that something might have happened to them, I called each of them one by one. After a long time, my husband finally picked up the phone. What do you want? We've all made it to Hainan already. We're not coming back for dinner tonight. Hainan? I froze, completely stunned, and asked in disbelief. You all went? Why didn't you say anything to me? My husband sneered. What do you know? You just want to come along, don't you? Do you even know how much the plane tickets cost? Take a look at yourself. Do you think you deserve it? I didn't know how expensive the plane tickets were. Expensive enough for them to leave me behind without a word. Licking my lips, I carefully asked, when will you be back? Tomorrow's the first day of the new year, and relatives will be coming to visit. What's it to you? We've worked hard all year. What's wrong with relaxing for a couple of days? You, on the other hand, have nothing to do all day. Don't call us again. It's annoying. The phone beeped with the sound of the call being hung up. My mind was a chaotic mess. When the kids were young, I took care of them. When they grew up, I worked temporary jobs to earn money. After my mother-in-law became bedridden, I took on all the responsibilities at home. But in his eyes, all of this had somehow turned into me being lazy with nothing better to do. From her room, my mother-in-law started yelling again. What are you doing out there, Amelia? Are you trying to starve me to death? You wretched woman. I picked up a bowl and went into her room, shoving a steamed bun into her mouth. Eat more. Why don't you? Because without me, there'll be no one to feed you. Chapter 08. My mother-in-law's face turned red with anger as she shouted. Just you wait. When my son and grandson come back, they'll teach you a lesson. Oliver, stop shouting. They've gone on vacation. They don't want you. And they don't want me either. Realizing she had no one to back her up, my mother-in-law fell silent, but I still had to take care of her, feeding her, turning her over, cleaning her up, wiping her urine and feces, and changing her diapers. After taking care of her, I had to feed the cats and dogs. While feeding the cats, the protective mother cat bit me hard. Luckily, my skin is tough, so it didn't hurt much, but the bite soon turned red. Then the dogs started messing around and provoked the mother cat, leading to a fierce fight between the two. One of the big dogs knocked over the bowl of fish soup, leaving the dining room in complete chaos. As I mopped the floor, my phone played the next video on autoplay. It was my daughter's voice. She had filmed my husband with a stylish older woman wearing a silk scarf. Laughing, my daughter said, Dad really hasn't changed a bit. At his age, he's rekindling his old flame. That's when it hit me. They were traveling with my husband's first love. This first love had been his girlfriend during their school days, but she broke up with him because his family was poor. I heard she got divorced a couple of years ago, but I didn't expect her to reconnect with my husband. As I continued mopping the floor, I suddenly felt exhausted and empty. I picked up the phone and called my husband. Oliver, when are you coming back? I'm done taking care of this house. Chapter 09. My husband's voice was still impatient. Why are you making such a fuss? If you don't want to take care of things, then leave. Do you think I care about you? Let me tell you, the little things you do, any old lady could do them. Do you think I value you? If you behave, I might still let you stay. But if you keep this up, I'll make sure you don't even have a place to live. I took a deep breath. Oliver, I'm not making a fuss. I'm telling you, I'll wait for you until the 6th day of the new year. The 6th day is when businesses reopen, and many people start traveling again. Leaving after that would mean I've done all I can for this family. What are you trying to do? Are you seriously this upset just because we didn't take you on the trip? It's not like I didn't want to bring you, but you can't even read. So how would you manage to get on a plane? My husband's voice was full of mockery and disdain. I've heard this kind of thing countless times over the years. Yes, he's right, I'm practically illiterate. How could someone like me, a complete fool, deserve to enjoy life with them? Hearing my silence, my husband grew even more pleased with himself. He spoke condescendingly. All right. Stop calling me. I'm busy. When I get back, I'll bring you something to eat. Happy now? He hung up in a hurry. But before the call ended, I still heard a woman's voice in the background calling his name. Since reasoning with my husband was pointless, I decided to call my son. Can you come back by the 6th day of the new year? These two dogs are about to tear the house apart. Chapter 10. Mom, what's your problem? Can't you let us enjoy our holiday? You can't even take care of a couple of dogs. What's the point of you? Anyway, my son's disdainful words felt like needles piercing my heart, leaving a dull ache. Beside him, my daughter-in-law chimed in with a sweet voice. Mom, don't blame Young. That's just how he is. We might not be able to come back by the 6th. So please take good care of my two precious babies. Oh, and don't forget to stew some bones for them. Make sure you buy fresh ones. They won't eat if they're not fresh. I was utterly exhausted, but before I could say anything, they quickly hung up. My daughter's attitude, at least, was a little better. Mom, don't blame me for not inviting you on the trip. Dad said if you came, we'd have to pay for you. You know how it is, you don't have a pension. So Dad has to support you. If we upset him, who's going to take care of us in the future? Daughter, about your cats. Oh, my little kitties are so well behaved. Remember to feed them milk. They're purebred and very expensive. One of your cats scratched me. My daughter fell silent for a moment before letting out a dry laugh. It's fine. It's nothing. It's just a scratch. It'll heal in a few days. And with that, she hung up too, staring at the now dark phone screen. I took a deep breath. I may be uneducated, but I know you need a shot if a cat scratches you. Yet my daughter didn't even mention it. Chapter 11. I planned to spend some money to get a shot, but the 50,000 yuan in my bank book couldn't be withdrawn until the bank reopened. All the household money was in my husband's hands. He only gave me just enough for groceries. I decided to ask him for some money, but as soon as he heard my request, he immediately scolded me. Since when did you get so delicate? It's just a cat scratch. It's not like you're losing a limb. Don't get the shot. Do you even know how much a vaccine costs? You don't make money, but you sure know how to spend it. Hearing him yelling at me, my mother-in-law laughed and mocked me. I knew you wouldn't leave. Isn't it all because of the money? As long as you take good care of me, my son will give you money. My husband's scolding still echoed in my ears. Did you hear me? No need for the shot. Don't go wasting money. And make sure you take good care of my mom. If she's even a little uncomfortable, I won't let you off. My mother-in-law bossed me around. Did you hear that? Today I want steamed pork with rice flour. Go and make it now. I stared at her coldly. She snorted. What are you looking at? If you dare treat me badly, my son will beat you. In truth, my husband doesn't usually hit me, not because he doesn't want to, but because he can't beat me. Maybe someone like me, rough and uneducated, only has the advantage of being physically stronger than him. Though whenever he did try to lay hands on me, I never fought back. I was afraid. I was afraid he'd leave me. What could someone like me, an uneducated rural woman, possibly do without him? But this year felt warmer than previous years, and I didn't want to endure it any longer. I didn't want to be a free housemaid anymore. Chapter 12. On the second day of the new year, my daughter shamelessly documented their joyful family life on short videos. My husband and his first love were acting as if they were a golden anniversary couple. He took the pictures while she posed. On a small boat, the two gazed deeply into each other's eyes while my son and daughter cheered them on, shouting for them to kiss. The video received countless likes. Many people probably envied them. But my daughter was too careless. She even directly forwarded the video to me. Then she quickly retracted it and sent several voice messages. Mom, you didn't see anything just now, did you? Don't overthink it, okay? They were just joking around. I didn't respond. I just quietly continued packing my things, getting ready to leave. My daughter's little cats had been attacked by my son's dogs again. The house was in chaos, cats screeching, dogs barking. I locked the dogs in their cages and the cats in the room. But then I didn't feel like cleaning up anymore. Why should I always be the one to clean up? Why did they go on vacation together but deliberately leave me behind? Chapter 13. On the third day of the new year, they continued to enjoy themselves, while I stayed home feeding my mother-in-law. She demanded steamed pork with rice flour, but after just one bite, she acted like she was going to spit it at my face again. What did you steam this time? It's as hard as a stone from the toilet. Are you trying to choke me to death? But this time, I didn't hold back. I took the plate of steamed pork away. If you don't like it, then don't eat it. When I left the room, there was no chance for her to eat it even if she wanted to. I had almost finished packing. All my belongings fit neatly into a woven bag. The sixth day of the new year came quickly. I thought they would return on time, but by evening, they were nowhere to be seen. Chapter 14. I tried calling them again, but no one picked up. Slowly, I realized they were doing this on purpose, deliberately ignoring me. Because I had asked them to come back on the sixth day of the new year, they decided to collectively disappear. I left a voice message on WeChat. I told them that I was really leaving, that I had let the dogs and cats loose, and that I wasn't going to take care of their grandmother anymore. No matter what they thought, I was going to leave. I decided to head south. I withdrew 10,000 yuan and bought a plane ticket. Turns out a ticket cost more than 1,000 yuan. It wasn't cheap. Then it struck me. I wasn't even worth 1,000 yuan to them. What I didn't expect was to run into them in Hainan. On the beach, people were singing and dancing, and my husband was passionately dancing with his first love. My daughter, looking a bit worried, said, "Dad, what if Mom really leaves because we didn't go back?" My husband scoffed dismissively. "Where could a barely literate old woman go without us? Don't worry about her. Let's just enjoy a few more days of fun." Chapter 15. I pretended not to hear them and walked into a nearby restaurant, hoping to find a job. The owner asked me to clean up and asked where I was from. I answered honestly, and he recorded a video of me to post online. I felt a little shy. "I'm not good looking. I'm ugly. Please don't film me." But the owner said it didn't matter whether someone was beautiful or not. Things that are meaningful deserve to be recorded. While I was working, chaos had already erupted at home. When my husband and the kids finally returned 3 days late, they were almost knocked out by the stench. Because no one had cared for her, my mother-in-law's waste had fermented, filling the house with an unbearable odor. She had fainted from hunger after days without food. No one wanted to go near her to take her to the hospital. It wasn't until a doctor arrived that she was finally moved from her filthy, foul-smelling bed. Meanwhile, my son and daughter-in-law held their noses and cried out for their precious dogs, only to find the two dogs had been fighting in their cage. The bloody dogs lay motionless, and my daughter-in-law screamed and fainted on the spot. My son, ignoring the dogs, hurriedly carried his wife to the hospital. My daughter and son-in-law frantically searched for the cats. Half of the kittens had already died, and when my daughter arrived, a starving adult cat lunged at her and bit her. She screamed and slammed the door shut. Her husband anxiously asked, "Where's your mom? Did she leave again? What about the money she promised us? Is she not going to give it anymore?" Chapter 16. The video that the boss posted unexpectedly went viral. He told me that many people online admired my courage. As I wiped the tables, I couldn't help but ask, really? Don't they think I'm foolish? That at my age I should just stay at home? Of course not. They even think you're pretty cool. Encouraged by the boss, I registered an account myself. In less than a day, I gained 100,000 followers. I started learning how to post videos and share my life. Many kind people left encouraging comments, and even brands reached out to me to post advertisements. The payment for just one ad was worth more than all my savings. The boss stopped letting me do chores and said he wanted to be my agent. We filmed videos by the beach, and one moment he was telling me to smile more, but the next he was kicked to the ground. The person who kicked him was my son, with my husband standing behind him, glaring at me with a dark expression. Amelia, so this is why you ran away. You found yourself a boy toy. Let me tell you something. Do you really think he likes you? He's just using you to make money. You stupid woman. Chapter 17. My son, seething with anger, growled, "How could you leave before we got back? Do you know my 2 dogs are crippled now? Do you know how much it's going to cost to treat them? Because of you, my wife wants to divorce me. You have to come back with me today and apologize to her." As he spoke, he stepped forward, ready to grab my wrist. I gritted my teeth and stomped hard on his foot. Didn't I tell you all that I was leaving on the 6th? Why are you blaming me? My husband stepped forward and slapped me across the face. You wretched woman. How dare you argue back? Let me tell you, you have to come back and take care of my mom. You almost killed her. You murderer. I froze for a moment. The next second, all my anger turned into strength, and I swung my arm, slapping him back with all my might. The old man's glasses nearly flew off, and his face turned to the side from the impact. Still unsatisfied, I kicked him hard. She's your mom, not mine. I've taken care of her for years, and you're still not satisfied? My husband was stunned, trembling as he stammered. Amelia, what's gotten into you? How could you change like this? Suddenly, I felt a weight lift off my chest. So, Oliver wasn't invincible after all. He could be afraid too. Chapter 18. What's wrong with me? You don't know? Why didn't you take me on the trip? Why? I shouted, finally asking the question I had wanted to ask for so long. My husband still looked confused. Because of this? Didn't I tell you already? You don't understand anything. Why would we bring you along? Then why are you here looking for me when I come out on my own? To drag me back and make me your servant again? Mom, can you stop being so unreasonable? My son shoved me aside and stood protectively in front of my husband. I've never seen a mother like you. You don't take care of my grandma. Fine, but how could you ignore my dogs? Let everyone hear this. I've never seen someone like her. My wife was right. You don't just abuse the elderly. You abuse animals too. Look at what you've done to our dogs. He shouted, showing the crowd pictures on his phone of the 2 bloody dogs. Let me tell you, unless you kneel and apologize to my dogs, I'll never acknowledge you as my mother again. The onlookers, not knowing the full story, gasped at the sight of the injured dogs. They started condemning me. Wow, so cruel. No wonder her husband and son don't care about her. Just look at her face. You can tell she's heartless. And she's supposed to be some kind of internet celebrity? I need to post this online. A crowd had gathered on the beach to watch the spectacle. My husband and son stood there smugly, enjoying my humiliation. Amelia, hurry up and come back with us to take care of my mom, or I'll leave you for good. My husband threatened. Chapter 19. Ha! Over my dead body, you disgusting beast. I've been done with you for a long time. I quickly opened my phone, sat down on the ground, and started wailing. Everyone, look here. I told them to come back on the 6th day to take care of the elderly and their dogs. But did they listen? No. I played the voice recordings, and everyone could clearly hear what I had said. Slapping my thigh, I wailed louder. Where's the justice in this? Am I supposed to serve this entire family my whole life? Can't I even leave the house for a bit? Oliver, you heartless dog. I've worked myself to the bone for your entire family for decades. And you go on a New Year trip without taking me? Are you even human? the boss finally stepped in. I can vouch for her. This lady came to my shop just looking for a job. I'm a married man, not her lover. My husband's face turned red and white, and he gritted his teeth. What are you doing? Acting like some crazy shrew? Don't you have any shame? Shame? What's the use of shame? Oliver, this self-proclaimed intellectual, was the one obsessed with appearances. But someone like me, a rough woman from the countryside, couldn't care less about that. I raised my voice even more. Oliver, weren't you a university professor? You're the shameless one, you even rekindled things with your old mistress. I saw it with my own eyes. Everyone, pull out your phones and record this. Let the whole world see what kind of scumbag keeps a mistress at his age. Suddenly, I spotted a figure trying to hide in the crowd. There she is, that's the old mistress. Oliver, you're disgusting. You came to find me and even brought her along. Chapter 20. My husband's first love, wearing sunglasses and a silk scarf, was surrounded by people taking photos. Panicked, she said, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was married. I only got back in touch with him after my divorce. If you want to blame someone, blame him, not me. The crowd started pointing fingers at my husband. Wow, no wonder she looks familiar. I've seen them before online. Turns out they're part of the golden years affair. Aren't they embarrassed at their age? And he's supposed to be a university professor? More like a university predator. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. My husband and son's faces turned bright red with embarrassment. My husband was so furious that he tried to run away. But after only a few steps, he collapsed face first onto the sand. When we got him to the hospital, the doctor said it was a stroke. Good thing you brought him in time, or he wouldn't have made it. I felt a twinge of disappointment. So he's going to be fine? The doctor shook his head. It's hard to say. Depending on his recovery, he might end up paralyzed. What goes around truly comes around. For a moment, I didn't know whether to sigh or feel relieved. My son, on the other hand, looked completely dejected. If Dad's paralyzed, what about my mortgage payments? Mom, you can't just leave him without his pension. How are we supposed to live? My wife will definitely divorce me. I didn't even bother responding at a time like this, and all he cared about was the pension. My daughter arrived in the middle of the night, crying at the ICU entrance. Chapter 21. Mom, is Dad okay? How did a simple trip end up with him being paralyzed? My son sneered. It's Mom's fault. First, she made Grandma so angry that she was paralyzed. And now she's done the same to Dad. My daughter glared at me with resentment. Mom, this is all your fault. Do you know how hard it's been for me to take care of Grandma in the hospital? Do you have any idea what I've been through these past few days? I've had to care for her day and night, clean her waste, feed her. It's disgusting. Of course, I knew how exhausting and disgusting it was, but wasn't that exactly what I had been doing for over a decade? So, you know how hard it is? Well, your mom, me, has been doing it for over 10 years. This was supposed to be your dad's responsibility, but now that he might be paralyzed too, it's going to fall on the two of you. My daughter's eyes widened in shock. What do you mean? Are you saying we have to take care of two paralyzed elders? I nodded firmly. That's right. If you, as their children, won't take care of them, who will? My son retorted. Mom, that's not fair. You and Dad are married. You're supposed to take care of him. It's your duty as his wife. I nodded. Fine. I'll take care of him, but only if I get paid. None of you are allowed to touch his pension. Both of them fell silent. I smirked inwardly. They didn't care about family. If Oliver didn't have a pension, they wouldn't have even shown up. But I didn't care about his pension. I have my own hands. I can take care of myself. As I was about to leave, my daughter stopped me. She cried and begged. Mom, didn't you say you'd give me money? Fine. 5,000 yuan is okay. I won't complain. Chapter 22. I looked at her coldly, then mercilessly shook off her hand. But I don't want to give it to you. You can stay here and take care of your dad. My daughter froze for a moment, then snapped angrily. Mom, what's wrong with you? You used to love me the most. What's the big deal about giving me some money? That money's going to be mine eventually when you die, isn't it? Dad was always biased toward my brother, and I let it go. But how could you also be unfair to me? You're just favoring sons over daughters. As she spoke, tears started streaming down her face. Oliver was indeed biased toward our son, which was why I always treated my daughter twice as well. But I never thought that my daughter would never take my side. I asked her, was I not good to you before? Then why didn't you tell me you were going on a trip? She hesitated for a moment, wiped away her tears, and said, it's not my fault. Dad told me not to say anything. So you didn't. She licked her lips nervously. Dad promised to give me 10,000 yuan. So I didn't say anything. It was just a trip. If you wanted to go, you could have gone anytime. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it? I nodded. You're right. So now, I'm going on a trip myself. Chapter 23. They never thought I would actually be so resolute. I bought a camera and set off on my own journey. I even started watching live streams to learn to read. I didn't want to stay illiterate forever. Now I can recognize some simple words. Not even a week passed before my son and daughter started calling me relentlessly. My son began by threatening me. Mom, if you don't come to the hospital to take care of Dad, I'm telling you, no one will look after you when you're old. While enjoying dim sum in Guangzhou, I casually replied, I don't need you to take care of me, or even to collect my body after I'm gone. Just take care of your dad. I'm not asking you to go above and beyond, but at least treat him better than you treat your dogs. But within a week, he was calling me, crying and begging, Mom, please, I'm begging you to come back. My wife is threatening to divorce me. She said if I keep taking care of Dad, I shouldn't come home anymore. Then make your choice, your dad or your wife. Without hesitation, he chose his wife and left his father in the hospital, completely ignoring him. If the nurses hadn't called my daughter, he probably wouldn't have even been fed. But my daughter was even more reluctant to take care of him, constantly complaining to me, Mom, I really want to dump him on a caregiver, but he refuses. The moment I leave, he starts yelling, making my work life miserable. My husband is already annoyed with me. When are you coming back? While riding a horse on the grasslands, I casually replied, we'll see. Maybe I'd come back for the funeral. What I didn't expect was for that day to come so soon. Chapter 24. I don't know what method Oliver used to call me, but he managed to get through. As soon as he heard my voice, he couldn't hold back his tears. Amelia, is that you? Amelia, please save me. My mom is dead. Did you know that? She must have been mistreated to death by them. I'm next. Amelia, I don't want to die. Boo-hoo. It was all my fault before. I shouldn't have gone on that trip without you. I shouldn't have been with another woman. I'm begging you. Please come back. There was no way I'd go back to take care of him. But I did go to the nursing home, not to care for him, but to finalize our divorce. Oliver lay on the bed, looking like a shriveled vegetable, dry and lifeless. When he saw me, he started crying hysterically. Amelia, after all these years, I've thought it through. You were the best to me. Those two ungrateful brats, I raised them for nothing. Boo-hoo. My son impatiently slapped him. What are you crying about? Have you gone hungry even once? Then he turned to me with a smile. Mom, don't mind him. He's just a useless old man. Honestly, he's so annoying. If it weren't for his pension, I would have dumped him in a nursing home long ago. After berating him, my son put on a bright smile and said, by the way, Mom, I saw you've got a lot of followers now. How much do you make from a single ad? Oh, and some good news, my wife is pregnant. You're going to be a grandma. My daughter also started calling me frequently, asking about my health. Mom, did you get vaccinated after that scratch? Oh, let me take you for another checkup, just to be safe. Yes. I'm now a big internet influencer with over 1 million followers. My son and daughter's attitude toward me has done a complete 180, but I no longer care. What I've realized is that having ability and freedom feels amazing. It feels incredible.